All right. So, how are you doing, Kayla? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I'm doing well, mid quarantine.
Yeah.
So,
So you have it's pronounced Reiki, right? Reiki
yeah,
massage business,
yep,
and I
yep.
got put on hold because of quarantine.
Yeah, I'm thinking about reopening in June.
Okay.
Just kind of seeing how things play out the next couple of weeks, next couple
Okay.
of days, I guess. June is like coming right up.
Yeah. Yeah. But you've been holding over, like, okay, kind of.
Yeah, I've been fine. It's been a nice little reprieve just to kind of
Mm-hmm.
like work on what I want to do and how I want to live my life and spend my days and
Oh,
what
cool.
kind of schedule suits me best. So,
Good.
yeah.
Have you explored anything new in this time? Have you taken a?
Yeah, I'm taking a class through Viz Arts.
Oh,
It's loom weaving on a frame. So there's
weaving.
my
Wow, you little arachne over there.
and I've been gardening. My partner built some raised beds and planter
Mhm.
boxes for the porch, and yeah, so we've just been planting and gardening, and that's a really fun activity too.
Cool. So you've taken some new leaps over here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Like I've been on all kinds of stuff with my break. I intentionally took some time out and learned a lot about myself in the process. Finally got all the hooks out of me. I can like really focus on me. And one of the things that came out of this has been wanting to start this podcast.
Cool.
So I think the name we're rolling with is Terraforming the Subconscious. And the
Hmm.
whole premise is just asking people, have you ever thought of your soul as a place? What might your spiritual landscape look like? And then just exploring that with people. So had you ever explored your soul as a place?
Not really. Like when I consider my soul, I imagine it as being inside this vessel of my
Uh-huh.
body.
Uh-huh.
And so, but also not located within my body, kind of within and without. In doing Reiki, I work with the energetic body, and I believe that's an extension of the soul as well, which extends beyond the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost think of my spirit I think of soul as kind of life force.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that as being like maybe a light entity or
Okay.
some type of like ethereal matter, not really solid, something you can hold on to or concrete or something that
Mm-hmm.
stays in one form, but
Okay.
almost like I would say I feel it in between my cells. Like the space in between my cells is where I think my soul lives, where my spirit body lives. I feel
Interesting.
like it's this current that kind of always is cycling and always changing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know if soul is different from life force or if they're kind of go hand in hand.
Okay, but definitely somewhere in between those descriptions. And you
Yeah.
describe it as being almost like a quality of light.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely there's a light aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in meditation or when I go inwards, I feel that I feel like maybe my soul lives up here, but then up in my head, for those of you who are not watching on the video, up here in my head, right?
Uh-huh.
Because when if those of us who are practicing meditation, we can observe our thoughts,
Okay.
and we're not the thoughts. We the observer? There's this like observing of the thoughts happening. So is that the soul observing?
Okay.
And then it also feels like maybe there's something that lives in my heart space. There's a sort of resonant quality in my heart
Mm-hmm.
center
Okay.
and also in my belly. So it's like if my soul is all of these places, I feel like maybe it doesn't live in one
Mm-hmm.
place for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the goal of a lot of my practices of meditation or yoga or different somatic practices is
Mm-hmm.
to drop down from the headspace that I tend to live in
Very cool. Very cool.
and drop
So
into
a
the
quality
body.
of light and resonances, and you have learned to step back from your thoughts and observe them in an even more objective way. Like the thoughts, you allow it to come from, not to say, I don't know, is it like a different persona and you step behind that persona and allow all of the thoughts to come from, I don't know, how do you describe that?
Yeah, at this point, I think I still identify with the quality of I.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I had that thought.
Okay.
But I've learned so far in my practice of life, my journey of life, of
Yeah.
living, of being a living, thinking human being,
Yeah.
to sometimes like take a step back from my thoughts and think maybe I shouldn't like jump on this thought that I have. Maybe I should
Okay.
just watch it come and watch it go and
Okay.
not get so overly identified with like
Okay.
taking action
So
with
you
it.
don't try to stop it or control it in any way. You let it unfold, but you allow some distance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's separate from the soul. Like I think that those like running currents of thoughts
Hmm.
are different from like the essence of a soul.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. And so the way you're describing it, it sounds like there hasn't been a place where the image of lights or of resonances, where all of these things kind of come together in one plane. Are they separate?
I don't know. I even would say I don't really know if my soul lives solely within my own body, right? Like I feel so connected to
Mm-hmm.
nature and to other people, and
Okay.
I feel in practices like Reiki, it feels like a oneness.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of a oneness that
Mm-hmm.
there is, that the life force within me isn't really different from the life force within you or within my plants or within the plants outside. Or to
Mm-hmm.
me, it feels like there's a sort of connection and like a sameness. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to describe
Well,
like
I
a
don't.
oneness.
Yeah, and I want this interview to be focused on you and your way of seeing the world, but to maybe if it helps to lend a little bit of experience through contrast, I've felt a similar. It seems like a similar experience to what you're describing with, okay, here's within me all the parts of me that I identify with, and I guess like psychic energies and thoughts, but then also it's like if you think of the world as yin and yang, everything that I think of as me is the white. And then even within me, my subconscious could kind of be within my sphere as the white. But then the world beyond me and nature and the concept of the other could be all the black. And it's like it looks different. It looks like it exists beyond my body. But it's like if you really went back and thought about life at the beginning of the Big Bang, where everything was this theory of interconnectedness, all opposites and dualities existed in a oneness, then they split off. There's that electrostatic force and that connection that we all came out of. Does that kind of harmonize with the way that you would?
Totally. I have never thought about the yin yang aspect with as my body and others or other
Mm-hmm.
bodies or other things, but I like that view a lot. And I
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel there's this like um, energetic, magnetic type of force that kind of keeps us all like within the same
Mm-hmm.
um, relativity. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's a good word. Like it's almost like we're all related, where we come from this source energy, in my belief, and we have different iterations of that. We have different unique expressions of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the parent energy is the same.
Cool, cool, cool. And so, if we can do our best to contextualize this a little bit, you threw out the image of perhaps thinking of your life force as existing in almost the space between cells, and you've kind of described some resonances. Are there any other pictures and images that that come to mind?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question that causes me to think differently from how I usually do, because I'm a very tactile
Mm-hmm.
person. I'm a very hands-on, I'm a manual therapist, I'm a body
Mm-hmm.
worker. I do like somatic experiencing, so a lot of it is about feeling this,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never really like put a quality of sight to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, or like imagery. And so that's been a fun thing to kind of think about. But I guess I feel really most connected to it within nature on
Okay.
this planet Earth.
Okay.
Like things like like yesterday I went to the river and like hung in a hammock and just like watched the water flow, something
Uh-huh.
like that. Like, and like the feeling of um the moist, like wet earth, like the dirt with the grass and the moss on it, and the way that the plants in the spring, late spring and early summer, like come and they like reach out their tendrils. You can see that they too have some sort of life force that's like, okay, I want to grow and like reach onto this thing. And
Yeah.
I think if my soul were to live anywhere, it would be in that in that space.
Cool. Okay. So you feel a lot of communion with nature. And when you look inward, it's kind of hard for you to identify in visual terms your experience of interconnectedness and of this spiritual landscape, perhaps. But when you look at nature and allow your emotions almost to kind of be projected onto nature, and you watch the phenomenon of nature, you can when you see it happen in the natural world, you're like, oh, like, okay, I relate
Like
to this.
that's it. Yeah. Like in nature, it's like everything else falls away. These concepts of right and wrong and good or bad and things that we've kind of created and our thoughts have created and these, societal definitions that we create. It's like all that kind of falls away and nature just happens. Nature just is.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. As you continue to talk about nature and having been in nature, are there other experiences that you come to mind that feel like they spoke to you?
In nature specifically?
Or, however, like as you perhaps experience the idea of interconnectedness with nature, what other kind of experiences gave you that feeling of?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't even have to just be in nature, but
Okay.
But I guess the word interconnectedness really jumps out at me as like that's when I feel my soul is like most expressed or most able to like be enlivened is when connecting. I mean, I think about connecting with clients and connecting with friends and connecting with you and just that same feeling of resonance of like, oh yeah, I get this, or you get me, or we're on the same page.
When you connect with people, how do you describe that connection that you feel? Is it more of like the resonance kind of thing? You get the general energy vibe? And
yeah, I would say it's magnetic too. I feel like even so in romantic relationships or romantic attractions, I've thought about this before, like even the phrase I'm attracted to you implies some sort of magnetic attraction. We use the same word for magnetic attraction as we do for romantic attraction. Like it implies that there's this force greater than myself, greater than my choices, my ideas, my concepts, my own limitations that pulls me to you. I mean, relationships is a whole other topic for a whole other podcast, but
it's cool. And it's part of the spiritual landscape, or, to the best of our ability to describe that. It obviously informs the way that we see the world because, yes, you're right. But it's all part of the picture, Very interesting. And like you said, we do express it almost as, where atoms are interconnected through electrostatic force and planets are held together with gravity and whatever, there's a fundamental fascination about center that even humans in our emotional life, we carry. And that fascination about center and purpose or ultimate concern, or even in friendship, when somebody has qualities that you're just like, wow, like you amaze me, we experience attraction. And what you said reminds me of Carl Jung talking about the subconscious. Have you ever heard the word circumambulation?
No, but I'm a big fan of him.
Cool. Yeah. And what you were talking about kind of remind me of that word where you said your curiosities and your interests, or even wondering about whether we have free will. To cut the long story short, my theory is that character is destiny. Character is destiny. And so you can't really tell if you have free will or not because your intrinsic choices, but anyway, circumambulation is Carl Jung's way of saying that his theory that, as newborns, we're incomplete. We're incomplete intellectually, emotionally, sexually, like whatever, in all these ways. And your intrinsic curiosities is your mind's way of engaging with the material it needs to complete itself spiritually, or to complete your soul spiritually. So perhaps you getting into Reiki was a way of you being able to, you receive an emotional benefit of being able to connect with people, but perhaps you develop the means to unify your individuality to self-unify and achieve fulfillment, happiness, purpose, and help other people do that. So he had that word circumambulation.
Yeah, I just Googled it to look at later. That actually, I would say that's very on point, because there are certain things that certain paths in life and certain decisions that we have to make, and when we're kind of like, it's almost like when we go in the direction of our correct path or our life's path or something like that, it's like boom, 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 boom. It just like opens up for us right there. But then there's so many avenues that we try to take, and it's just block, like not gonna happen, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. And how we do have our like these like unique interests that we develop in childhood. I have talked to a lot of people about their life and their life path and stuff like that, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I was really interested in this one thing as a child, and now it's like my whole life. And just as a kid, I had this cool experience where I talked to this woman who was an American Sign Language interpreter, and I was asking her, how did you get into that? And she said when she was a young girl, her mom picked up a book on American Sign Language, like just so little, like how to learn, and gave it to her daughter. And then ever since then, she's been fascinated with it. It's like, I was blown away. Like, if your mother had never gotten that book for you, would you still have found your way here,
Yeah, exactly. And that really explains kind of how I got into all this, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I want this to be, your interview. And a question I have is, do you feel like all channels in your life, like, so your libido flowing freely, when it flows freely, it has that feeling of fascination and just the energy and no wasted, whatever. Do you feel like all channels in your life are completely open, like you're at your maximum potential, or do you feel like there's still places that are a little bit kind of could be opened up more, or that are shut down, or you never thought about?
Yeah, hell no, nothing's all open. There are so many blocks. There are so many ways that I'm blocking my own self, but there are a lot of ways that I am open, and that I have removed those blocks. But I think one of the ways to do that is to see them. And I think in a lot of cases, we can't see what our blocks are that we're imposing on ourselves.
Yeah. And, so, sorry, baby. he wanted to be in my lap, but he always does this cute little bull charge, like I want to be a matador when he, poor belly. I'm sorry, baby. Interesting. And so what are, obviously like, you weren't into Reiki, at least not that I know of, when we were in college. Like, I knew that you probably sensed the world through energies and resonances like you do, but you found Reiki since college, the last times like we really hung out.
Yeah.
How else?
That has totally opened my life. Reiki has totally opened my life in a way that I never even imagined. I guess, so in college, I was like very interested in people. I was an anthropology major, and I loved studying culture. I loved studying humans. I loved classes about magic and witchcraft and religion. I loved studying religions. I was very like spiritually guided, and I have always been spiritually guided from a young age. I moved from Christianity as a kid and then I found that was no longer serving me. So I started like meditation practice and kind of digging my way into learning about Buddhism, and that really resonated with me for a long time. I've been to a lot of like meditation centers, and I've gone on meditation retreat and stuff like that. So Buddhism is definitely, I would say, the religion that kind of calls to me, but I don't tend to, I guess, consider myself a practicing Buddhist. And then Reiki, I found, I had a friend who was doing Reiki classes. I had learned about Reiki in massage school. So after college, I went and lived in China, and I was a teacher with the Peace Corps for 2 years. And then when I came back from the Peace Corps, I didn't know what to do. And then same kind of thing. Like, there was these few avenues that I could go on, and one of the avenues just opened up and totally took off. and I've loved being on that path ever since. And that was with massage. And so I went to massage school where we did learn some energy work. We learned there's this practice of using a pendulum, which is like a stone on a chain or on a string or something, and you hold it above the person. There's a person lying down, and you hold it above the energy centers of their bodies, which some people call the chakras. And the pendulum will do this really cool thing, and as the person who's holding it, you can tell I'm not doing anything to this string. I'm just holding it here with a steady arm, and it's going in a circle. And there's this type of magnetic force that comes from the body to the stone, and it's really incredible. So we did some things like that in school, and we talked about energy work. And then after I was already practicing as a massage therapist, I decided to pursue Reiki. We call it attunement in Reiki. It's like a Reiki certification type of thing. The attunement actually attunes you to the Reiki energy, so you're able to, I guess, channel. I think we all have Reiki. We all have the ability to use Reiki. It's considered universal life force energy. So if that's the definition, then it is the life force energy that's within me, that's within you, that's you know, this thing that we're all sharing. And it was really healing for me. It was I took the class with my friend right after I had gone through a really hard time emotionally and physically, and I used it first as a way to heal myself, and then as a way to share healing with others. And now I'm a teacher of Reiki, and I love to just play with it. It's really fun.
Oh, yeah. And actually, like, I'm glad you had said that, because I was kind of wondering, like, where the word Reiki comes from. And now that you said it, I think I'm willing to bet the kanji for it. Rei is probably like spirit, like in Japanese, yude is a ghost. And then ki would be like energy. So spirit energy, it makes sense. How else do you feel like you can channel or control that energy?
Through breath, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, breath work has really been amazing and very opening when there's some stagnation in my own body, or some channels that are blocked within my own body because of lack of movement or something emotionally. I mean, if you think about it in the physical body, right? When we have a certain emotion, we embody a certain physical presence, right? Like, so somebody who's very like sad or scared or something, maybe they'll try to close off their heart space and keep this area closed. The longer that we're in this position, the body adopts that as, okay, this is how we need to be in order to survive in the world, right? This is how we will be. This is how we've been for so long. And so, and like, breath work has really helped me to open up some spaces in my body that I didn't even know were stuck.
So how do you feel like Reiki could help you? What does it feel like when you sense somewhere that energy is kind of blocked, and then how, like, you're not really sure why or where, but how would Reiki help you identify that blockage and how to open it without really knowing why or where it's coming from?
On my own body or somebody else's?
Like in your experience.
In my own physical experience. Well, usually I know what is kind of going on in my own life, right? I know, like, I've been going through this certain thing, or had a, you know, maybe I had like an expression of anger recently. And so I kind of sometimes go from the Chinese medicine perspective of looking at emotions. Like, certain organs will be the carriers of certain emotions. So sometimes I go that way, or sometimes I just kind of intuitively feel, and the practice of Reiki is like a hovering of hands, or a laying of hands. So as I'm practicing that, you know, I can kind of just be guided wherever I think feels good to me. And a lot of times for me, it's like solar plexus, like center of my chest. I have a lot of anxiety, and I think that that's like a place, like belly, it's like a really soothing place.
Maybe by touching your belly, you remind or channel the energy and kind of tell it to unwind, or ask it to unwind.
Yeah, totally. It's just like a loving act, right? Like may healing happen here. Or even just like I love you.
Okay.
Just saying some things that
And
need to be
touch.
said, or even maybe no words, and just feeling the energy, right? If I'm not really like, I'm feeling great, I think I'm okay, I'm like, nothing's really happened, maybe I just practice with just sensing,
Uh-huh.
hovering and just sensing, what's the quality here, like, is it warm, is it cold,
Okay.
is it, sometimes I feel like a tingly static type of thing on my hand, like, does it feel empty, does
Okay.
it feel heavy,
Okay.
and just kind of exploring with curiosity rather than trying to do anything there.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Do you feel like in your Reiki practice that you've ever accidentally transmitted a negative energy or something? Like,
Yeah, this is a topic I'm really curious about too because yeah, I've asked a few different practitioners like, do you do anything to shield yourself or protect yourself before
uh-huh.
your session?
Yeah.
Because some people will imagine like an actual shield of light around their body before they go into a healing session, and
Mm-hmm.
that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always do that. I do make sure to stay grounded, like notice where my feet are
Interesting.
and create that connection with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm in a session and I notice my mind is kind of wandering, I
Mm-hmm.
try to bring it back and so that my mind is clear and I'm not like worrying about my grocery list while I'm like working with this person, or even with myself, like
Mm-hmm.
noticing when the mind wanders to just gently bring it back. Um, as far as like a negative transmission, I believe it can happen. I believe it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times, especially early on in my practice, where I would come home just like wiped out, like totally drained, or I'd like got really overcome with emotion and I'd be like, what is going on? Like I feel like this isn't mine. Like I
Okay.
don't nothing's happening for me to feel this way. Like it's just like seems really bizarre to be like so emotionally gripped by this thing.
Uh-huh.
And so then cleansing practices really help. So sometimes there's like some cord cutting that needs to happen, like literally imagining like whatever cords are like attached to me to just be snipped off and like have that energy go back to where it came from.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Very cool. What other so there's cord cutting, what other kind of practices might there or metaphors or might there
Yeah.
be for offloading that?
Well, water helps. Taking a cold shower, perhaps. I think smoke helps too, like a cleansing
Like a
incense or
sage.
yeah, sage, or any like plant that you connect with, like there's a lot of plants native to people's regions. Like I wouldn't encourage anyone who wants to do cleansing practices to like go out and buy sage. I don't think
Okay.
that's necessary. I also don't think it's like very appropriate.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have sage in my house. I'm not going to say that I don't.
Right. I just know like smudge sticks. I mean, if besides
Yeah. Yeah, they've become really popularized. But native
like local plants, like something.
Yeah, well, indigenous communities have asked for people to stop using
Oh,
that medicine because it was not given; it was just
oh,
taken.
oh, interesting.
Like a lot of things from indigenous peoples were taken, so
Okay.
and a lot of practices. And yeah, smudging with sage has become like really popularized, but it's actually not sustainable for the plant at the capacity that it's like in demand right now.
Oh, really?
So
Interesting.
yeah, so I definitely encourage people to find some native plants that they have. Like, there's a bunch of cedar in Virginia. Like, cedar is great. Pine is
Yeah.
even really good.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really good. Or you can grow your own whatever you want. You can get a sage plant maybe and like grow it, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Let's see. You mentioned a little bit of having some like residual anxieties and stuff. Like I don't know, like you don't have to go too much in detail and stuff, but are you able to kind of generalize like where or what that might be a little bit, like what you're kind of working through to unblock your future energies and
Mm. So recently, I've been studying Ayurveda, which is
okay.
traditional Indian medicine,
Okay.
and they kind of separate you into like your body type represents different elements. So there's like a really windy element, and then there's like a more fiery water element, and
Uh-huh.
then there's earth and water, which is like kind of a muddy element. And so there's these different constitutions, and I think I just have a like higher predominance for like the windy element.
Yeah.
Maybe just right now, maybe, I mean, we spend so much time on the computer now and
Mhm.
we're very technologically attached.
Mhm.
So that I think causes me to get into more of an anxious type of feeling within my body. And like I notice the more I scroll, the higher my anxiety is.
Okay. Okay.
So some things like that I think are relative. I also think I was like born with some anxiety. Like it's just kind of in
Mhm.
me. I don't know. Like maybe it's some karmic thing, or I don't think I'll ever be anxiety free, but um I just push through it, you know? I mean, I get like silly stuff, and that's I think when noticing what my mind is saying and then maybe not like listening to it very strongly
Uh-huh.
comes into play and like is very helpful.
But
You
definitely not trying to direct your mind, like force it to think some way that it like doesn't. Let it unfold. You're not trying to repress it. You're just trying to step back and observe it. You don't have to act on every thought you think.
Yeah, you don't have to act on every thought you think. That should be a t-shirt.
Or even
Yeah, like
feelings. It's like you don't have to be everything that you're feeling.
yes, exactly. And you are not what you feel.
Hmm.
What you feel is part of what's your experience, but that is a you as a soul, or like you as an entity are
Yeah.
totally separate from that.
Hmm.
And even, you know, good feelings, like we don't have to get so attached to them and like so hoping that they'll stay forever. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, like anxiety comes for me in sometimes very silly ways. Like there's this class I really love. It's a Kundalini class, and
Okay.
it's Project Yoga Richmond. It's
Okay.
every Wednesday morning. And when we were still meeting in person, I every Wednesday morning, it's the class starts at 9:15. At like 8:30, I'm like, maybe I won't go. I don't know. Maybe I'll just skip it today. Da, 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 da. Like this chatter of like, nah, I don't want to go. Like I don't want to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And then just like shutting myself up and then just going anyway. Or maybe I still am chattering like that, but I'm just like still getting ready to go and make it there on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just silly stuff like that.
Um, of course, there's nature and biology, but why do you think that you became so engaged with the world through a tactile sense? Do you
Mm.
feel like that developed over time? Like, are there certain experiences that you remember where you can really remember that, it kind of shaping this way of relating to the world, of relating through it in a tactile sense, a kinetic sense?
Mm. I remember being a kid and we took the What's Your Learning Style
Okay.
quiz.
Okay.
And kinesthetic just popped, like that was what came up for me then.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, I
so I
said
think
kinetic. I meant kinesthetic.
so I think I have had this like identification as that way
Uh,
from that experience, especially because I remember that experience and I don't have a lot of memories from childhood.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe I just identified that way, and it's possible that I am blocking myself in other ways, like that I could be learning, whether it's through like visual or auditory.
Yeah.
Um,
But primarily is kinesthetic.
yeah, I'm definitely primarily kinesthetic. I love to get my hands on things. I feel like it's a um, like if somebody shows me how to do something. This has been a recent thing because my partner is a woodworker, so
Okay.
we made this frame for the loom.
Yeah. Very
Beautiful.
cool.
It's this like old oak. It
Yeah.
smells so good and it's so
These
nice.
interviews coming full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I stopped by his workplace and I had asked him to make a frame if he had any extra wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always like jumping on the chance to learn something new. And so he was like, I'm about to make your frame. I was like, great, we can do it together. And it was a challenge for me because he would want to like do it and like show me how to do it or something.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, okay, but I have to do it. Like in
Uh-huh.
order for me to learn, I need to do it. And he's like, in order for me to show you, I need to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we're both kind of on that same
Mhm.
learning spectrum.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
yes.
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I had a question that was coming to mind, and then now it just like it jumped out of my head. But like you said, so you feel like you learn and relate to the world primarily through kinesthetic sense, but you wonder if you might be blocking your learning capacity or whatever through not being able or not emphasizing relating to the world in such a visual sense or even auditory sense. Do you think you would be interested to do follow-up interviews in the future? And then maybe like as you occasionally think of your soul as a place, or if that question fascinates you, kind of check in once in a while and let me know how that picture kind of evolves, or how the evolution of that picture changes the way that you relate to the world, or something.
Yeah. I would love to take that on as a question that maybe is explored, and then see if I can describe it maybe in a non, like maybe through drawing or collage or something visual.
Yeah, because even, my personal cosmos, it really came out of a blackness. And the first kind of image that that really came to me was sand and desert sand and blah, blah, blah. But even me, where I'm very visual, to enhance and explore in the darkness and push the boundaries and the limits of my spiritual landscape or imagination, whatever, is like I'll try to touch and interact with the image in as tactile of a sense as possible. Or that was a large part in why I took the job at the wood shop when I came back, the sign shop. I felt that learning trade skills and engaging with materials in a very tactile sense, of course, I would be working, and then I would get like all kinds of visions, coming to me constantly once I'm in that mode, just by deliberately using a kinesthetic learning style, which is what I more recently got into, So, if you'd be interested to do that, it'd be cool to check in and just, see how it evolves.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I love a good challenge, and I love broadening my horizons, and trying to like tap into these other ways of being, because maybe I have been, I think when we're doing something one way for a long time, it's good to switch things up.
Yeah, exactly. 2 questions before we finish. Can you say the name of your Reiki massage practice so people can find you?
Oh, I would love to. It's called Giving Back Massage Therapy and Healing Arts. We're located in Richmond, Virginia, and 10% of the profits from the massage go to fund different social organizations.
Cool. So I'll put the link to your business in the description. And last question. If you enjoy doing the interview, is there anybody else that comes to mind that you think would be interesting, that would love kind of exploring this together?
Yes, I'll send you some friends. I'll definitely send you some people. I think that these are conversations that my friends and I love to have, and I think this is a great. I even told my roommate about it, and she was very excited. So maybe she'll hop on too. She's not here now, but I'll put you in touch with some people.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, the podcasts are going up on YouTube now. We got like a number of interviews coming up. So if like and share and spread it around and keep this fire going, and get more and more people in, and then kind of we'll cycle back, and then we can even do group interviews in the future where like all the groups of friends can kind of come in and share together.
Yeah, when we can be around each other in the 3D.
Yeah, one day, But, yeah, all right. Well, thank you, Kayla. It's good to see you again.
Thanks, Jason. This was awesome. So fun.
Cool. Well, enjoy your day.